Welcome to the golden mean, everybody. Look at that four panel. Very rarely we do a four panel, but I've got three college students who are managing their way through this coronavirus crisis, and they are at Fresno State University. I used to live in Fresno, so my dear friend Faith Soros, who's an associate professor at the Media, Communications, and Journalism School at Fresno State. She is fantastic. And I called her and said, you know, I'd like to talk to a few students, just have a conversation with them at one time and kind of learn about how this has impacted them. And, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I want to thank Faith, who is off camera. It's too bad. My nickname for her is Blue Eyes. Beautiful smile, beautiful person.
I agree.
Of course you guys agree. She's still grading you, right? I'm just kidding. Thank you for doing this, Faith. And let's just go around and just a quick introduction of where you are in your 4 years or 5 years or whatever, and what your concentration is media, communications, and journalism, but maybe what you want to do with it or are already doing with it. Okay. And let's start with Gabe.
I'm Gabe Camarillo. I just finished my first year at Fresno State, so I have 3 more years left at Fresno State. Obviously, my major is MCJ. My emphasis is in broadcast and print journalism. And right now, what I'm trying to do to hone in on my skills is just I write for the local Clovis Random newspaper as their sports writer. So we're around a lot of high school athletes who are going through the same thing as the collegiate students are.
Great, awesome. Cruz, we'll go next.
Yeah, I'm a fourth year this year. I have one more semester to go, but I'm also a broadcast and major. And yeah, I work for Telemundo also. So yeah, we're adapting a lot there as well as in school. So yeah.
Okay, and Ishshah, and yeah, I didn't say Cruz's last name, so make sure you say your last name, Ishshah.
Okay, my name is Ishshah Padilla, and at my 4th year here at Fresno State. So this would be my last semester coming in the fall, if everything goes as planned. And basically just right now, I'm just trying to concentrate on school and concentrate on my current job that I do have. And my emphasis is in broadcasting. Okay,
good. All right, so this will be a little different for each of you, but just answer it according to where you are in your year and all of that. You know, I don't mean this to be a negative question, but obviously this is, you know, dealing with this as a college student, when you're working hard, you're paying for your education, this has been awful. I don't know a student who's enjoyed it, okay? So, but I'd like to hear it in your words. So let's go, we'll do all this counterclockwise when I ask the three of you. So we'll start with Gabe. What have been the negative impacts of this in living it before we get to the positives? Describe what it's been like.
Not being able to see my classmates. You know, I thrive off of being able to interact with them, and you know, you lose that when you go entirely remote on classes. That's been the biggest negative impact, is not being able to be on campus, not being able to do my jobs. Really, I used to work for Mountain West Network and was a broadcaster for them, and when the athletic season was canceled mid-March, there goes my job. You know, I was no longer able to work there. I was just had to write for the newspaper, and even that newspaper wasn't doing that well. But overall, my college experience has been limited because of this coronavirus.
Cruz, how about you?
I would say one of the tougher things with this whole coronavirus pandemic. I feel like our major, as well as many others, are very social based. So it's all about kind of interacting with your classmates, the more hands-on experience type of stuff. And then it's just been, everybody having to adapt across the board. And I think that's one of the harder things, not maybe having some of the in-person resources that you're used to. And, just trying to find all that, over a screen or over a Zoom call or over an email. So I think that's probably one of the harder things.
And Ishshah, finally, how about you? How's this been for you? Describe the experience?
I mean, obviously this whole coronavirus has affected like everybody in some way, and till now it has not. I felt like personally, other than like being separated from school and from family, it hasn't like hit me personally, except for now that I'm starting to feel like the impact of like everything that's kind of changing. So my plans of school and, of work has had to change in a way than I originally thought due to the coronavirus.
So now go from there onto what you've learned, what you've taken away that's been a positive. How have you had to change your studies or your own MO, your own routine? Have you learned anything new already, or are learning something new as a result of this? Let's go counterclockwise again with Gabe.
I'd say what I've learned the most is just time management, because this really forces you to become more of a time manager. It's easier to go to school and go to the library and commit yourself to studying, but this is so tempting. You have your TV at home, you have lots of different distractions at home. So really, it's building more of a work ethic, I would say, within me, because it's causing me to be more diligent in saying, okay, I got to put down the remote and pick up a book or pick up the laptop and finish my work, because that's what really had to do these last 2 weeks to finish my first semester, or first year, I should say, at Fresno State.
Yeah, and that's something that a whole lot of adults everybody, right, has had to sort of reconfigure, just about everybody, how they spend their time, right, to even have something that's disciplined to get you through the day, and because your time blocks are different, and they're massive now, depending on if you're out of work or out of school. How about you, Cruz?
I would say it's like kind of what Gabe said. It's kind of about being a self-starter, and if you're not a self-starter, like it's kind of hard to get things done later in the day. Like I found that personally having Zoom calls and like different things to get done early in the morning makes me a whole lot more productive. And I think another thing, like the harder part to change, was separating, your work time from your personal time, because I feel like the line between that got kind of blurred when everything, started changing. And I think, being able to separate that kind of, keeps your sanity together, and it makes sure, you're dedicating your time where it needs to be, and also, focusing on the task at hand when you're trying to get stuff done.
How about you, Ishshah?
I think one of the biggest difficulties was like the whole online transition. Like for me personally, I am a visual learner. I want to be in the classroom. I want to be in the studio, which we do have at school. And just kind of like switching over, to me, it didn't give me that personal, even with Zoom calls and everything, and it didn't give me that personal contact that we need. Maybe because we're in broadcasting, we want that face-to-face, we want those conversations, and I find that online it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, no, this whole thing has made me it just reminds me, and sometimes I write about this, that, we're not wired to be isolated, or not evolved to be isolated, right? Or both. People want connection, right? It's a very human thing. And also we all learn from each other, from being with each other, right? It's so, while we're at it, I think a good question for you guys, I'm really curious about this. You're in the Media Communications and Journalism School, and I think all three of you are doing practical things even outside the class. Even I think Cruz at Telemundo, you're already working at the Spanish language affiliate in Fresno. But so I'm curious your opinion about how the media has covered this thing, because now, it's different than in my day. There were a few major papers and a few television stations. I'm old, guys, really old. But you guys, you're in this world where there's countless channels of information, and people out here have to decide, well, what do I trust? What news source do I trust? Is it time to go out yet? Is it not time to go out? Are they counting these things right? Talk about your own observations of how you think the news, the news media, for lack of a perfect term, has covered this whole thing. Start with you again, Gabe.
Well, I've been on Twitter quite a bit, so I've seen both sides pretty well. And it seems to be that the partisan divide in media is really apparent, just because of the way it's being reported, because of the way people are reacting, whether it be they're commenting on the article on Twitter, or whether they be quoting the article and saying their own beliefs. So really, I think the media is starting to get twisted in a way that's a little bit dangerous, because it's supposed to be impartial, it's supposed to be fair. And the example that comes to my mind is really the incident that happened a couple of days ago in Fresno, where a local councilman was approached by a group of conservative activists at his home, and you saw two schools of thought. One that believed that the councilman was in his right to be able to, push the conservative activists who approached him first, and the other school of thought was that the conservative activists had every right to be there. So really, the media, this reporting isn't necessarily the problem. I think it's the people who are reacting to it that are kind of twisting the media narrative.
Interesting. That's an interesting answer. Cruz, agree? Any additions? What do you think?
So I wouldn't say like I kind of to agree. I'd say I don't think it's the reporting style that's the partisan thing. It's kind of the byproduct of the pandemic, I would say, because obviously the virus is one thing, and the way outlets were reporting on that, we're trying to just be factual and give out numbers, but I also can see that within the healthcare systems, the numbers haven't been exactly there, consistent, or actually it's kind of one of those things. Like, what numbers do you believe? Because there's so many numbers out there,
Right.
And also with conventional news, newspapers, TVs. Now we have social media, and then I was just having a conversation with a good friend about this last night, and he was saying, it's kind of hard to believe because you just see so much stuff shared on social media, and the average person that doesn't know how to consume media and be able to tell, okay, what's kind of padded and what isn't, or what's been fact checked and what hasn't been, it kind of creates a lot of confusion just amongst the general population, I'd say. And so you have all this stuff drowning your feed, and it kind of creates a blur. Even it's crazy because you're like, well, is this real? And then it's a lot of us want to believe it's not, but the numbers are also there. I recently had some family pass the corona, and it's one of those things that you're kind of like, well, that happened, but also they did have pre-existing conditions. So are they right? Are they wrong? And I think it's one of those, you got to find the middle ground in between and kind of shoot for that, I think. But that's the hard part, because like, where is that middle ground? So yeah, I definitely say it's a hellstorm, and you kind of have to fact check yourself. And now that we have more time than ever, I'd say it's the best time to become media literate. Yeah,
I love how you said, I gotta call this out, because this doesn't really happen. And I'm so glad you said, I'm going to quote you. You said you got to find the middle in between. You got to find the middle ground. And actually, that's what the golden mean is. It's not just my name, the reason for the show. And I was telling you guys earlier about the book that I wrote. It's about compromise. It's about listening. It's about not going extreme to either track, whether it's political, whether it's anger, whether it's sometimes, euphoria. And believe me, I'm no master at this. I name it that because it's aspirational for me. But what a great point in terms of people, not believing everything you see, but taking it in and then deciding.
Yeah, because for example, sorry, not to cut back in, but another recent event that happened in Fresno was at a waffle shop on Mother's Day. I'm pretty sure if you guys follow the news, you've seen that. Reading Facebook comments, you see a bunch of things. But one of the things I followed up on was that the owners, or the guy that got arrested, his son also owned 3 other restaurants and was very vocal about the issue as well. So there's kind of like different layers of things that stack on top of each other, where you kind of don't know what people's intentions are. Obviously everybody is struggling at this time. Even if you still have a job, you can still do that. But it's kind of, you gotta think about where people are speaking from, and then take that into consideration, as well as just taking into consideration, everybody's story right now, because everybody has a story, everybody has a struggle right now.
Ishshah, let me take it back to the baseline question and then go whichever way you want. How do you think the news media, it's you know what? I can't believe I phrased the question that way, because I've been asked that question. I said, well, the news media, that covers a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess, so that's bad on me of all people to misask that question. But I guess more so, how have you been absorbing news and information? And do you think those straight journalists have been doing a good job, the ones that you listen to, watch, or read?
Yeah. Well, I kind of have to agree with Cruz on this one. It's just so much being thrown at you at once, like different channels, different on the internet, different social medias. So it's kind of like we have to decide as viewers what, kind of find that middle ground into seeing like, okay, I kind of believe this, but I kind of don't. But what we do believe, I see it as it's our responsibility to further that research. Like, are these numbers true? Did this really happen? Like, I feel like that's on to us into figuring that out, because we could be told many things. And I do believe that the reporters now are doing a fair job with what they're able to do at this moment in time, you know?
Yeah, it's hard. It's obviously hard for them too, because they have to trust information sources, right? Or decide. I mean, it's not like the reporters don't know that the death count is being categorized differently across, you know, counties and states and towns, and it's complicated. So they have to do their best and put disclaimers on it and so forth. It's a tricky thing when you're on, especially live television, talking to the country. You know, you don't get to pull it back. You say what you say, and this is the time I think that really shows how well journalists can research and speak frankly and measure in a measured fashion, right? Sort of edit themselves, because it's complex. It's not like getting something else wrong. There's tons of lives at stake here, even on the small end, right? So what do you miss? Excuse me. Go back to Gabe here. What did you like and do you like best about the college experience right now in the year 2020?
The college experience pre or post quarantine?
What? Well, pre. I guess we don't know post as much. You guys pointed out a couple positives.
Oh yeah.
But I guess let me put it in the past tense. What did you love the most about college, the way that you were attending it before this?
I loved how I was able to do my job, work for Non-West Network, and then go to school at the same time. It was easy. It was very busy. I didn't have a lot of free time. And it was kind of ironic because before this happened, I was thinking I couldn't wait for summer because finally I'd be off school. And now summer's arrived, and it's not the way I imagined it, but obviously it's the way not a lot of people imagined it. But it was really fun. It was just educational and interactive, and I loved everything about it before March 12th.
Makes sense, Cruz?
So you're talking like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you love most? What do you miss most?
I would say one of the biggest things, like even dating back to my freshman year, and I still believe this right now, I think a college campus is a great place to kind of get diverse viewpoints and kind of get different people's like perspectives on things, like, and even just the coursework you're studying. Like in-person college discussions will never beat a discussion board online. Like that's just a fact of the matter. And I think I do really miss, you know, being able to collaborate with colleagues and kind of like get their input. You know, just having that in-person interaction was one of the biggest things. And I'm a big social person. I like to, you know, talk to people, get different people's inputs. And I think that's probably the biggest part of the college experience. And, you know, when people graduate, that's one of the things they miss, you know, being around thousands of people every day and, you know, just being able to work together like that with similar people your age and that are kind of going through similar stuff that you are and have similar, you know, difficulties and issues and stuff they're trying to overcome. I think that's one of the in-person aspects that I miss the most.
No, that makes sense. That's an interesting answer. It's I taught at Arizona State a couple years ago, and they wanted me to start teaching online classes. Now, unlike Faith, I don't do it full time. I was an adjunct professor just teaching a class or two, and I didn't want to do online because to me, the reason I loved teaching was being in the classroom. And I think what you're talking about is that energy that you can, virtual's great and all, and this is good, and I'm going to ask you a question about that, about how effective you think it is, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. Ishshah, I know that you're taking the newscast class next semester, and it might be virtual. And I mean, if it is virtual, will you stay in that class? I don't know if that's a required credit or not, but you actually have to face what Cruz was talking about. It's sort of right ahead of you, eh?
Yeah, well, before all this kind of came down on everybody, I'm a huge planner, and that's one of the things that I miss about school. You know, like I like routine, I like to schedule things, I know what's coming, you know? And now everything's kind of like full of like uncertainties and jumbles, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to leave my current job to focus on school, because that was my original plan before all these uncertainties kind of unfolded. was to focus 100% of myself to school. You know, this last semester I was going to bring it home. And with all of this, I don't know now if I'm going to be able to take it. So, and it is a required class. It is kind of like our bigger, more important classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now
it's also, sorry to interrupt, it's really cool and fun too. It's one of the highlights of the program, right?
it is. It's like the closest you get to like the real thing, you know? So it's kind of, now it's just kind of deciding on what I want to do basically.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's actually stay on that. And Gabe, you guys, I think that you guys have all this semester done some coursework virtually, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So start with you, Gabe. What's the positive of that, or challenges and positives now that you've been doing it for 2 months or so?
Challenges and positives to the coursework?
On doing it virtually versus in the
Virtually.
classroom.
Right. So talking about MCJ specific courses that I've taken, the writing class I took, media writing, didn't really change that much. Obviously, it was not that great that we had to have this, the way I can put it is, this is something special about having a writing teacher with you when you're writing, because there's that connection. You can feed off each other the ideas. It was not helpful to have that be virtual. I don't know. I just didn't feel the same way. And as for my video editing class, that was very hard to do because the video production side of it, you got to be in the lab, you got to be on Premiere Pro, and you have to download the software on your laptop, and then the teacher's not there to give you immediate feedback or answer your questions. You have to email them. It was just really made everything more of a hassle, I would say.
That's a great sum up, the last 7 words there or so. Cruz, what do you think? Has education been as good? Have you learned as well? It's differently, but have you learned as well as you did before?
I would like to think so, but I know in my heart it's kind of different. Like when you go to lecture-based classes, then turn into either just PowerPoint slides up on Canvas, or even just like a video presentation that they post. It's a lot different just because you don't have that back and forth, that Q&A answers, raising your hand in class. I feel like that's like a total different experience. Like, for example, I took a media ethics class this semester, and while it was interesting, I learned a lot of cool stuff. I feel like being able to ask questions in class in person is a lot different. And luckily I didn't have any of the hands-on classes that that are requirements for graduation this semester. I took those all previously, and I have a couple I'm taking next semester, but I'm kind of retaking. It's a whole different thing. But I took what I needed to take beforehand. But I'd have to say it sucks for those hands-on classes because our major is such a hands-on type of experience. I can't imagine doing that remotely, especially it's different having a professor over your shoulder, helping you as you learn, and I can't imagine doing that remotely.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer too. Ishshah, notwithstanding the fact that you're at a different place than these guys, and you were going to start that practical course. What's the learning experience like been for you, just strictly virtual versus a classroom?
I think, like I said before, I'm like a visual person. I want, like, this semester has kind of been tough. It's been kind of like learning myself in a way, not only the courses itself, but learning that I get distracted really easily.
You and I are.
And I cannot. This semester was like a learning curveball that I just prefer to get my butt to school and do it there. That's honestly what I prefer.
All right, speed round. One question. You could take a second. It's not that, lightning round, but we're not clocking you. We'll go again, Gabe, Cruz, Ishshah. This has been great. So last question. Knowing what you know now about the coronavirus and how this has changed your college experience, if you could go back, doesn't matter whether it's 3 years or 1 year or whatever, wherever you are, if you could go back and do something differently in that college experience in that time, what would you do? What would you do differently?
Not a thing. I would keep it the same.
You had a great college experience, right? So it
Well,
has,
it was just a year, and I'm waiting for more, obviously, and it probably may be a while until we get back on the campus. But I love my first year of college.
oh, no, actually, that's a great point. And the student I talked to at Iowa, she's going to be a senior, so she had more time, and now she's facing her last year and thinking about that kind of thing. Well, how about you, Cruz? Would it change the way you went about intentionally experiencing college in any way?
I mean, my first, 3.5 years, I'd say they're amazing. They're probably some of the best years of my life. It's a lot of fun. Just, meeting new people, going to cool classes, learning new things. I would say if I was probably a little bit younger, like in my college years, because I know this is it looks like this is gonna hold on for a little bit. The whole pandemic, I probably would go back, but because I lived my time, because, I'm such near the end, I don't think I'd come back.
Good. Ishshah, how about you?
I think I would actually change a couple things. I would want, honestly, to get more involved in just like the social aspect of it, like clubs, and just like do more, get involved more within my major, which till now I have to admit I have not, just because of scheduling. But that's one of the things that I would go back and just try to do, and like have a little bit more fun with it,
These are all great answers. I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all doing this. I'm flashing back to my days walking around that Fresno State campus when I was a reporter, when Faith and I were reporters together at NBC there. And I felt the same way when I started teaching at Arizona State. Just being around, we say young people, we were them once. We talk about college students like they were a different species, right? but it's just a different time in life. And I learned so much from my students. That was part of the juice of being there and doing it with them. And it was the same thing the last 30 minutes. So I really appreciate you guys doing this. And I'm wishing you the best of luck. And Faith Sidlow, my dear friend, associate professor at the Media Communications and Journalism Department of Fresno State University, thanks a ton for bringing these smart young people and asking them to give a little time to me. I really appreciate it. Go, whatever form college takes. You got the bulldog on your shirt, you got the bulldog behind you. I know you guys have a ton of pride and a ton of potential, and so just make the most of it and have a great time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure, guys. My pleasure. Highlight of the week. Thanks for everybody for listening, watching. Talk to y'all soon on the Golden Mean.